after driving nearly 4 hours from basically Illinois all the way back up here to eastern Wisconsin, I am doing a Starbucks where they have a freezer that is having some temp problems, a walk-in freezer. So I'm gonna go inside and take a look at that. So this one's going to be an interesting one. So got called up here a little later at night, but I want to take a look. We have a walk-in freezer, and this walk-in freezer is actually it was showing really high temperatures, and so when I got here it was showing as low temperatures, but it looks like it had gone through a defrost cycle. But when I went ahead and I took a look, see, I saw this was all frozen up here like this, right? That was frozen up. When I measured temperature inside the box, I was actually getting -6, yet it was reading at 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So it looks like we have an issue with the actual temperature probe is not reading properly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna replace that temperature probe and just see what happens with that, and then we're gonna defrost the freezer, so see if it operates properly. For defrosting this freezer, what I do is I actually have almost like a hairdryer. Now this hairdryer, though, can get really hot. Now you'll see where we actually are freezing still is right where the defrost heaters are not on the coil. So you can see where it's not on the coil is where we're actually getting most of our problems. You can see what I'm doing here. Heating this big old block of ice, trying to get it to defrost. And then once I do get it all defrost, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and run a new temperature probe. You'll see that temperature probe is right there. And that temperature probe is what I'm going to have to replace. You could ask me what are the, secrets to falling this stuff out quicker or something. I have no idea. I've never come across a secret of it. I know like hot air rises and all that stuff, so maybe you should hold it low and let it seep up. I don't know. It's just something you gotta do. You'll notice I place that sensor right there. This will be for the return, and then the suction sensor I went ahead and placed right there where the old one was. So this is the old sensor right here, and we're just gonna keep that in place for when we actually replace it with OEM. If they want to replace OEM parts, they'll know exactly where those go. And the same thing with this sensor here. We're going to go ahead and put it in there so it can be replaced with OEM. So I went ahead and I changed out that thermistors, and it looks like we're getting exactly what we're supposed to be getting here. So if you take a look here, we're actually getting -4 now, registering in the box with 18 PSI on the suction line. And with that -4 in the box, and then we're actually registering 1 inside the unit itself. So looks like we're getting exactly the temperature measure that we're supposed to get. So that's going to work just fine. Now that job was pretty interesting. Just get called out for these coolers
And sometimes it's just the simplest little thing, right? So it's not temping, then it is, and it's not that it is. You'll find out a lot of times that when you're working with these walk-ins that you'll find that coil gets frozen over a lot. And when that coil gets frozen over, you're not going to get your proper temperatures, right? So either a fan could kick off and not provide enough airflow across that, cause that coil to freeze over. A defrost, heater element is not working properly, and that's going to cause this thing to freeze over, right? Because it goes into defrost, but then doesn't melt all the ice off. A clogged drain line is going to cause it to back up and just fill that bottom tray up with ice, and then eventually freeze up the entire evaporator, cube. And then you'll also have problems with the sensors. So with these electronic sensors, it's going to kick into defrost, or it's going to kick the unit off when temperature reaches a certain temperature. But if these little electronic sensors just aren't working right now, a lot of times the controller is bad and not the actual thermistors. But every once in a while those thermistors go bad, and you'll see, if you paid attention in this one, those thermistors that were in there, those little ones with little metal heads on there, I've noticed those go bad more than the new ones, with like the nylon tips and stuff like that. So I actually always carry in my little box of goodies, I carry probably 10, 15, sensors, or those little thermistors that you can hook in. A lot of times people are going to say, oh, you got to use this thermistor for this system or that. I found like when I mix and match them, the temperature readings are exactly the same. I'll actually take a controller. I've done this before. I've taken a controller. I'll hook every single one of the thermistors I have into it. It always gets the same reading. So, I mean, it's really just two dissimilar metals twisted together, rate the differential across. It's pretty much going to be the same. Now, there are some guys who are going to argue with me on that, and they're going to say, oh, well, in very special controls, you get this minimal difference. Okay, true. I'm talking about running a walk-in freezer, walk-in cooler, not, regulating the, cooling effect on the thermonuclear warhead, right? Like, I'm not talking about that. Or controlling the chemical mixture in the whatever, right? I'm talking about just walk-in coolers, walk-in freezers, reach-in coolers, reach-in freezers. Those type of temperature controls, if you're off even 2-3 degrees, it's not a massive deal. It's not like we're working with something where we need to be down to the minuscule, minutia 0.0001 degree or something like that. So you'll see in this job, it was something that was a pretty easy fix. What the time took was just defrosting everything, right? Getting in there and just getting that thing free of ice so we could actually run it. And when you run it and you run your tests, you got to put the caps back on and stuff like that. So getting in there and actually getting that switched out, getting it defrosted, getting those new thermistors run it down there, checking box temperature, checking the coil temperatures. I had my little probes in there, checking everything out, just making sure what we were reading and what was actual was in within a very narrow band, and that what we were seeing made sense, and then the thing worked. And at the end, it was exactly what we needed it to be. The customer can now put all their cool goods in there, and they're not going to have to spoil anything out, and they're going to be able to keep making money. If you like this video, I just ask you to go ahead and like it, subscribe, hit that subscribe button twice, so that way we can you can be reminded every time that we put one of these videos out. I'm going to go ahead and try to do one of these a day for a while, because I have a lot of footage of work that I've done. So some of this is going to be older things I've worked on, and then I'm just going to cut it and release it. But I'm going to try to put as many of these out as I can. If you guys like them, just keep liking them, and let me know. All right? I appreciate it.
Make sure you subscribe, and you can see all of our videos on, I don't know, YouTube.
Dr. B HVAC.